Audio check. My body lies over the ocean. My body lies over the sea. My body lies over the ocean. So bring back my body to me. All right, that appears to be working good. I wasn't sure my mic was going to pick me up very good. I turned down its decibel levels to get the static a little lower. So let's see what the can sounds like. Also, a Panther's decided to join us tonight. You might hear some weird sounds or me screaming at him. We'll see. What? Oh, you want the soda? You want the soda? Oh. Oh, I know what you want. Come here. It's gonna be awfully weird with my. Okay, there you go. He likes to sit on my lap in a very particular way, and because he's only got 3 legs, I have to kind of pick him up and put him in position. And now he wants attention real quick. Okay, day 56. So, if I remember right, we're building mushrooms and we're waiting on the ship to get the tickets called. And we actually basically kind of almost, I think, have some spare time. In which case, the question is do we start this or not? I kind of think we do. So, yeah. Waiting on mushrooms to grow. Because, yeah, we need another club head sample, which is going to take us at least another 4 turns. Oh, actually, maybe we don't start because this is going to kick off. Man, that's 5 whole turns. We got plenty of money. Is there anything interesting? Okay, this is to sell stuff. And this is to buy a ship mine core, which I don't need. So we're going to go ahead and get Flux started. Why not? I can always regret it later. Peak, cautious XPR spacer. You came, Peak smiles as you walk into the climbing Briar's cargo hold behind a gloomy Esh. Esh, stubborn XPR spacer. They brought mushrooms. Esh tosses the mushroom caps onto a crate, raising her eyebrows at Peak. Peak gives her a look. Thank you, Sleeper. They pick one up and sniff at it. Are these edible? Yes. Peak turns the cap over in their fingers before putting it down. We're not used to fresh produce, Esh is securing crates as she speaks and doesn't look up. Hawthorne doesn't have much in the way of farming. They're an acquired taste. I'm sure the refugees will acquire it. Esh wipes off her hands on a rug. Most of them are from Ember's moon, so they are used to eating green and growing things, not like us XPR roughnecks. XPR? This an interrogation? She glares. Either way, we are done with that place, which is all you need to know. Ash leans back against the crate she was securing. We're going to need more than a few mushrooms if we want to help those refugees, though. What do they need? Food, water, components, a whole lot of things. Ash stands and walks over to the mushrooms you brought, placing them into a small container with care. The problem isn't just getting supplies, it's getting through to the ships. Can you speak with Havengers? We aren't exactly welcome guests, Peak explains. If anyone figures out that we came in with the refugee ships, we'll be quarantined as well. Are you both refugees? Peak looks at Esh, waiting for her lead, but Esh doesn't flinch. Something like that. Esh looks away. But this isn't about us. This is about them. Esh stares at you. Even calling them refugees is just a way of turning a lot of scared, desperate people into a single monolithic group. Esh slides a container full of mushrooms into one of the cargo hold racks. Looks as much as I'd like to chat, we've still got a lot of space to fill in this hold, so if you're gonna help... I think Esh is trying to say we need your help, and quickly, Peak says, glancing at her. The refugees behind the cordon, they won't be able to hold out indefinitely. We need to get supplies to them in the next 12 cycles, or... Esh steps forward. Or Havengers will have to bear the responsibility for whatever happens next. What can I do? There's 3 things we still need to secure. Water, food, and scrap components for ship repairs. S gestures to the storage containers around the hold. Water we can find a way to source, or, my preference, just siphon off from the underground reservoirs in the Greenway. Peak raises their eyebrows. Esh? She ignores them. For food, things could be tricky. Those mushrooms are delicious, I'm sure, but no way we can get enough volume to feed a flotilla. However, I saw an algae stack on the way over. If we can get access... No more stealing, Ash. Peak sighs. I didn't say steal. She stares at them indignantly. If we get access, we can work the stack, harvest some algae for the flotilla. Then those stacks churn out vast quantities in short time scale. And the repair components? Peak asks tentatively. Ash smiles. Just look around you, Peak. This whole place is made of scrap. She shoots you a glance. I'm sure the Sleeper has their sources. They can bring them right here. We get everything before time runs out perfectly. We get most of it. Also good. Either way, in 12 cycles, I'm going to take what we have and go. But how will you get through? Ash shoulders a container. I thought I'd leave that up to you, Peak. They flinch. Are you serious, Ash? I know we said we would help the flotilla, but at what point... They stop, take a breath. Take this seriously, Ash. I don't know the first thing about breaching the quarantine cordon. Maybe not, Ash looks at you, but they might. They slipped out of an S&R facility, didn't they? Plus, they've been here longer than us. You're always trying to get me to find help. Well, here it is, she gestures at you. Help. Pete glances between the two of you. I swear to... They sigh. I need to think one through. Meet me at the cordon in a couple cycles, Sleeper. Maybe we can figure something out. Meanwhile, Ash meets your eye. You can help me acquire the supplies. Discreetly, she smiles. We have to keep this quiet, keep Havengers out of the loop. Once they get suspicious, this is all over for us. This all suddenly seems a little too real, too dangerous. You've only just found your feet on the eye. This is not a time for causing trouble. Come find us. We'll be out there trying to pull this all together. Ash goes to the back hold to start packing another container. Peak, come help me. Peak glances back at her. Sleeper, look, we didn't choose this either. They lower their voice. Help us finish this. We set up a base camp on the Broken Spoke. You're welcome to rest there in any of the cots while we work on this. They smile. We're in this together. Peak, Ash shouts, and they walk back into the hold to help with the container. As you leave the climbing briar, you look out at the broken edge of the ice ring where Havengen's cordon blinks with tiny red lights. What are you getting yourself into? Okay, so we got, yep, so this, So we need 8 scrap components, and these 3 cycles of these tubes plans. So how many scrap components? 8. This is going to get tight. Okay, they'll be back next turn. Okay, playing this change will get me scrap. Do I have... I don't have anything here anymore. Okay, assuming I get 2 cycles with the scrap people, which I think I do, that would give me 6. Here's 7, and I need an 8th. Okay, I'll have enough scrap components, or I should have enough scrap components now. Let's check out the algae stack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Negotiate access. The algae stack is controlled by a small collective of farmers. If you want to use it, you'll have to persuade them. Much of S's work, you'll have to pay or talk your way into using the algae stack to farm food for the refugees. Negative energy and +2 algae, and then reservoir S3. We can siphon water. We need okay. Oh, nice. Okay, so I have to siphon the water. Jeez. Get the algae stack first. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Go get some energy real fast. All right. Now, did that finish his plan? Briar's hold. The flotilla needs food and water components. You might not be able to get all of them, but Eshes will take care of what you can get. Peak's playing all the supplies, blah, 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 blah. Peak's part of this. This is going to be rough. Oh, okay. So now... Okay. One, two, three, four. So we need 4 successes on the harvest algae, 3 turns. So I have to accelerate the growth some. If I do it once per cycle, I should be good. Oh, that's what? Oh, what? Wait. It says complete scene, so we have a scene somewhere. Peak. Alright. Sleeper. Peak catches your attention from the shadowy corner they were leaning against. Any trouble getting up here? None. Good to hear. Come take a look at this. They beckon you over to a nearby window, which looks across the ruined ring to the blinking red lights of the Havenger's cordon. The cordon's temporary structure is a net of metal struts meant to detect and dissuade any ships from entering or leaving the flotilla, jut out into the black, and all around the tugs split, securing them in place and tending the red blinking drones that demark the quarantine. It's an impressive, worrying sight. What do you think? Peak interrupts. Your thoughts? How would you get through? Yeah, I'd use one of the tugs. As an escort, you mean? I doubt we could fit all the supplies on one of those tugs. But if it seemed like the Briar was being officially escorted through the cordon, Peak squints at the red lights, but then we'd be stuck inside. Peak turns away from the window and rubs his forehead. Ash has really wrapped us up in something here, hasn't she? The question is spoken under their breath, and they don't seem to expect an answer. The silence grows. Maybe we try all 3. Peak laughs. I like it. At least we should prepare as many as we can. The way I see it, there are 3 parts to making it through that cordon. The gesture at the window of the strange structure. Deception, distraction, and speed. We'll need all of them for a clean passage through. Deception means tricking the cordon security into thinking that we are meant to be there. Maybe a tug escort would work. Anything that makes the Briar look official. Distraction, meanwhile, will be all about diverting attention so that no one looks too hard at what the Briar is doing. If we can create a gap... Yes, buddy. There you go. If we can create a gap in the cordon scanning and turret systems, that should keep them busy. You want down? There you go. Finally, Speed will be making sure the Briar is ready to roll. Perhaps we could do a little work on the ship to get it ready. Esh certainly won't mind. They lean back from the windows. How does that sound? Good. Good to hear, Peak grins. Peak looks down at their slate. 10 cycles left. They glance out of the window at the corridor nervously. 10 cycles to gather supplies and to prep this plan. It's tight. Very tight. Peak looks at you. If those goes wrong, Peak sighs. Just get out, okay? They squeeze your shoulder. I'll follow Esh anywhere, but you don't need to get dragged down with us. Won't come to that. Peak brightens up a little. Of course, but just keep that in mind. Let's get to it, Peak stretches. I'll tell Esh about the improvements to the Briar and to the rest. Let's explore the cordon as best we can and look for openings. I have no idea what guardian angel sent you to us, Sleeper, but I'm very glad they did. No nodes. So no hacky. The cordon. Blend in with crew. One thing about being a sleeper is people always assume you're working, so blending in with the tug crews shouldn't be too tough. Repeatable action, intercept comms. Cordon buzzes with radio transmissions and data packets. Intercepting them will help you have a sense of how things will run here. You and Peak need to get a sense of how the Havage's operation works before you can prepare your plan to slip through it. They're at least not going to make me, fix the ship at least yet. There's more action scenes? Where? Oh. Lem and Mia. The crowds have already gathered by the time you get to the shipyard, and you recognize faces among them. People you've worked alongside on the tri-drill. The intervening cycles have turned their excitement to anxiety, and few of them smile at you. Instead, the nervous energy of the crowd fills the space, creating a feedback loop of growing tension. You pick out Lem and Mina and work your way over to them, pushing through the crowd. He silently raises his eyebrows at you, anxiety obvious, but Mina flashes you a huge smile, unaware of the tension. "Robot!" she shouts, reaching out to you. Or just gonna straight up hug her. She gratefully accepts your hug, leaning against your chest, and Lem smiles, seemingly glad to share the weight of Mina for a moment. Quite the turnout, huh? Lem glances around, pulling Mina close. You don't think patience is one of this crowd's strengths? The sound of an argument towards the back catches your and Lem's attention. He's putting it lightly. This place seems set to explode. This isn't good. Lem doesn't dare answer, but the look in his eyes suggests he agrees. This is Ashter Engart of the Celis Foundation, the announcement echoes through the speakers at the shipyard entrance, and shouts of quiet rapidly follow. I'm sorry I can't be there to meet you all, and thank you on behalf of Sendre Silis for the work you have done on the Sadril horizon. Most of the crowd strains to see Astra's face, but the small display shows only a ghostly white figure, smudged and unclear. Sendre wants me to pass on her personal thanks for your commitment to and belief in the Celis Foundation's mission. We chose the Eye for this project because we knew that we would find like-minded individuals here, especially among the ranks of the venerable Havenge Association. Unlike most of the Corps, we neither believe Erlin's Eye to be a threat or a rogue state, but instead an embryo for the formation of a new decentralized social structure, one where each citizen might be the master of their own destiny. A ripple of impatience runs through the crowd. They didn't come here for a sermon. You're all pioneers, just like those Corps citizens who the Sidereal Horizon will carry, in cryosleep, to the planet that will become the Foundation's first frontier world, Celis 1. At the mention of the destination world, excited conversations break out among the workers. Our citizens will be able to create their own innovative bottom-up economic order, aligned with the principles set down by Cendre Celeste herself: freedom, resilience, and self-sustenance. This is all thanks to your tireless efforts in the Havenger's Shards. As a reward for those efforts, you may know that we are offering a select group the opportunity to join the caretakers of this vision, the staff of the Sidereal Horizon, who will maintain the vessel during its multi-decade transit through interstellar space. Lem turns to you, his eyes bright. This is it. This draw has been performed at random by the central AIs of the Foundation and is final and binding. Please note, only licensed contractors of the Foundation are eligible for this draw. I know you all have been eagerly awaiting this day, and without further delay, I will now read the Celis identification numbers of those chosen for this great honor. A murmur runs through the crowd. Celis identification numbers? Licensed contractors? You've never even heard the term mentioned. Is this something you were supposed to be assigned? You glance at Lem, but his eyes are fixed forward, wide and shimmering. All around you, people are speaking in hushed tones like a rising wave. Aster starts reading out sequences of numbers and letters, and a panic begins to set in. No one seems to know what is happening. Somewhere near the front of the crowd, someone shouts in celebration, and everyone pushes forward. Lem? You turn to see Lem, still staring forward. Mina's scared now as she shouts as the shouts start. Daddy? Someone throws something at the entrance, and it rattles against the shipyard doors. You see for the first time, Havenger's security stood on either side, scared, arguing between themselves. You feel the anger rising in the crowd. Lem, let's go. He doesn't move. They might call out names. I can't. Mina tugs at his dog heads. It's not happening. Lem blinks rapidly and then turns to you. He opens and closes his mouth and looks down at Mina. He sees the fears in her eyes and understands it's time to go. You lead Lem and Mina out, shoving people aside. As you do, you hear the sound of the scuffles emerging at the front of the crowd, of metal canisters bouncing off the shipyard walls. You keep your head down and walk away, the sound of Aster reading off the ciphers echoing above the chaos like some strange mantra. When you turn to Lem, there are tear tracks running down his cheeks, and Mina is sniffling into his jacket. You feel the sadness rising in you too. They screwed you. They screwed all of you. You were never even on the list. The feeling is as unpleasant as it is familiar. You stare ahead into the tunnel as the security siren sounds out, a signal for the coming violence. Oh, ouch! Was there nothing to do? I suspect that we're going to be doing some hacking. Oh, and need my scrap. Scrappy, scrap, scrap, scrap. Up and okay, so we've got Lem and Mina's unit. We got 3 turns. Lem's out. A note on the door of the unit. Sleeper gone to find work. Lem. Give me 1 second. I believe my cat is crying. All right, back. Okay, so what do I get with this? This is awesome. Reroll. Okay, and so I see what's going on. Okay, so we're good on that. Some food. You're leaning against the metal crates you just loaded with algae, packed and dried into bright green pucks. Ash hops onto one beside you, flexing her aching back. I hope the refugees like algae. Ash squints at you as if you just interrupted her train of thought. It's a look you have become familiar with. Doesn't matter either way, this is what we've got, she sighs, rubbing the back of her neck. In these past cycles, working the algae stacks with Esh, you've had little insight into her mind. She rarely seems happy to start a conversation, but is always eager to end one. Despite this, you feel like something has grown between you. Something like silent trust, the kind that tends to seed itself in the fertile soul of hard but necessary work. There's something I've been meaning to ask you. Esh raises her head cautiously. Go on. Why help the flotilla? Esh pauses, her protective instinct fighting with the trust you've built. You can see her begin to shrug the question off. Then she stops, rethinks, sighs. What you need to understand, Sleeper, is that Erlin's Eye wasn't the only place where the Solheim collapse happened. Sure, Hawthorne, where we grew up, was an XPR installation, but that didn't screen it from Solheim going under. Actually, Solheim was the only reason XPR were ever here. She pauses, hesitant to get into the whole story, but wanting to offer something. She flinches, correcting herself. They're a service corp, you understand. They set up outposts and surrogate systems like this to offer refueling, logistics, and maintenance services to bigger companies with extraction contracts. She gestures the eye around her, like Solheim. When Solheim went bust, XPR lost their client, and Hawthorne, well, we lost everything. We became an outpost tasked with just holding on, keeping the refueling platforms running, they said. Keep the outpost stable. Hold on to our claim. She rubs at her head as if recalling all this was somehow physically painful. Do you know what it is like to spend your entire life in a place with no future? A place that exists only to hold a legal claim to a piece of territory? To sure up breach of contract negotiation between two corporations? It's like living in a she searches for a word, her eyes jumping back and forth. In a grave. She clenches her hands. So if you're looking for an answer to why questions, that's your answer. We, Peak, and I know what it's like to be forgotten, to be locked out. She stares hard at the side of the stack, the algae whirling against the glass in beautiful patterns. She doesn't look away. The silence extends, and you realize the conversation is over. Esh seems angry, not at you, but with herself, for even voicing such ideas. After a while, you stand and start to load the crates onto the powered cargo trolley that Esh will run back to the Briar. As you do, you try to catch her eye, but she avoids it, soothing herself instead with the comforting simplicity of physical work. Ugh. Oh, nice. Oh, sweet. The engineer stuff finally procced, and I've got actual scrap. Excellent. Tucked into a service corridor deep below the reservoir, Ash is double-checking the seals on the water tanks, loaded onto the motorized trolley. Though you're far enough away from any thoroughfares not to worry about being overheard, you both still speak in hushed tones. How will you get these to the Briar? Esh glances back at you. We'll trolley these up to a bay further along, then we'll bring in the briar for a quick and quiet collection. Speaking quiet, she gives you a look and then looks pointedly back down the corridor towards the reservoir before hitting the ignition on the trolley to start it moving. You take the other side of the trolley and walk it up the wide service corridor with its flickering lights and Solheim Deritus. You doubt it gets used by Havinges, at least that's the hope. You glance across at Esh, her face a mask of determination as she guides the trolley along. Maybe some conversation will make the journey a little easier. How did you meet Peak? Esh pauses, a little surprised by your question. She glances back down the tunnel, but in the deserted passage you can hardly keep up the pretense of silence. We grew up together, she answers quickly and turns back to the trolley, but you can tell you're expecting her to add more. She seems to gather herself for an answer, not wanting to ignore you, but trying instead to get her answer straight in her head. Our outpost, Hawthorne, is not an easy place to grow up. The administrators keep a tight hold of everything. She rolls her eyes. Even they are trapped in the same decaying insulation as everyone else. Peak, she pauses. Peak found it harder than most. She pauses again, judging her words. I stepped in to help them out. Silence descends again, but you can feel the wheels turning in Esh's mind as the creaking wheels of the trolley take you along the corridor. Peak isn't the most practical of people. They used to be, well, they needed someone to teach them to look after themselves, stand up for themselves. That was me. After that, I couldn't get rid of them. Esh stops talking, but you see her eyes have lit up, and you imagine she's recalling some moment or other from her and Peak's past. You both reach a wide bulkhead door and have to stop to shimmy the trolley over the edge. When you're done, Esh turns to you. I'm good from here. Head back. And with that, she's gone, moving off into the dark tunnel ahead. You watch her go and then turn around and walk the distance back to the staircase you entered from, the tunnel humming around you as you do. As you walk, you try to piece together Esh's past, but all you have are glimpses of a person she once was. She seems to prefer it that way. Okay, yeah, so we've got 3 of the Briar's Hold. This will be the, or 2 of the 3. That'll be the last. We need to get in on Peak's plan. I suspect there's going to be multiple segments to it, but we're only like a quarter into the 12 turns, so. Sleeper, long time. Moritz is smiling at you when you leave. Clearly happy to see you again. Moritz, good to see you. Same, same. He rubs his hand on his jacket. How you been? Working hard. I bet. He grins. Well, you all are always welcome to hang out at the bay if you want. He glances around. Actually, that's what I'm here about. I know Bliss said she didn't want to take any more big jobs, but she's changed her mind, or something. He grins, because now we have someone looking for a refit of their ship in our bay. You'd not believe it. They want their entire ship disarmed, cutting out defense arrays, weapon lockers, ship-to-ship countermeasures, the whole lot. He leans in. We'll be able to start an arms dealership with all the hardware we'll have up there when we're done, he laughs. Anyway, it's a massive job and we need some hands. Bliss said to go get you. So come on, Bliss is waiting for you to accept the job. He pauses. It'll be good to have you up there again, he grins, like old times. We'll go see Bliss first. When you enter the bay, it is weirdly quiet. Moritz must be out on an errand, and maybe Bliss is prepping the kit? Oh, it's Ankita. Sleeper! Ankita is drifting at one side of the bay. You missed her completely when you came in. The idea of not seeing Ankita when you entered her room would have seemed unlikely to you several cycles ago, but seeing her without her armor, she seems smaller, less imposing. Ankita? She nods and kicks off the wall, drifting closer. So what is this, she asks. Come to avenge Ashton or his sleeper? Or just looking for another payout? Her anger is familiar, but quieter than before, restrained. I don't want to fight. Then why are you here? She looks away, and you can tell her anger isn't directed to you in particular. It radiates off her like fire. You better be ready to sign, comes a shot from the bay entrance, because I've got my best repair tech coming up here, especially, and they're gonna... Bliss glides in and suddenly stops herself when she sees you and Ankita standing off. Oh, Sleeper, you're already here. Miss Cassetta, this is the tech I was telling you about. Best on the Who. She stops, looking between the two of you. Wait, do you two know each other? You and Ankita look at each other. We work together. Bliss squints at you both before continuing. Bliss produces a slate. Now, Miss Cassetta, if you'd like to sign our damage waiver here, we can start the decommissioning. She looks at you. My tech here is eager to get started, as am I. Ankita scrawls her signature across the slate. Thank you. Bliss pauses, and everything is okay with the special payment terms we discussed. She gives Ankita a strange smile. All fine, says Ankita, giving you another hard look. Then she kicks off and drifts to the entrance. I'll be in the gimbal, she says, and leaves. Special payment terms? She looks over her glasses at you. Look, Sleeper, there's something I have to tell you. She glances around again. What is she so nervous about? This isn't exactly a typical job. Miss Cassetta, Ankita, she gives you a knowing look, doesn't have the chance to pay us, so we've made a special agreement, she sighs. I'm leaving. You're joining a mercenary crew? Don't make me laugh. Ankita is an ex-merc. Why do you think she's getting us to remove all her ship's armaments? Amber. The ship is called Amber. Bliss gives you a funny look. There's some deep history here, huh? She holds up a hand to stop answering. Look, all I care is that she's heading for the starboard belt. She looks out of the bay. That's where I'm headed. She turns back to face you. All I wanted to ask, she stops unsure, if you'd like to come with us. I can't. She interrupts before you answer. I know things have been hard for you on the Eye, and you helped me so much. I asked Ankita if she'd carry two of us, and she said yes. Moritz will take the bay anyway. Although if you stay, you are welcome to help him run it. I just thought, she sighs, you might be in need of a fresh start as much as I am. She turns away nervously. I think about it anyway. The berth is there. We've got to finish the job first anyway. And with that, she kicks away and heads to the racks. Before you can offer an answer, moments later, Moritz enters with a new cutting torch for the disarming the ambergris. The starboard belt, you push your thoughts to the back of your mind. Time to get to work. Up and the side rail's docked. Okay, good. We don't seem to have a timer on this one. Whew. So we can ignore this for now, I think. Okay, we've got a way to get on board. We don't seem to have a timer here as well. Let me get some food real fast. There's no answer when you buzz Lem's unit. With the doors open, you push the door and find Mina, sitting in the middle of the floor, playing with Bun Bun. Hi, Mina. "Hi, robot," says Mina sullenly, waving Bun Bun's paw without looking. "How are you?" "Bun Bun is sad," says Mina, nodding the toy ahead of the agreement. "Like Daddy." You look around the unit. It's a mess. Dishes and glasses on the side, some of Mina's clothes piled in the corner. Mina's sitting by her bag, which is spilled out across the floor. Her drawing slate cracked and dark. "We're going to tidy up." You start with the kitchen units, piling up the dishes in the auto wash and wiping them down. You pile the clothes up next, folding them neatly. Mina watches you quietly as she plays, curious but silent. You just started to look at fixing her cracked slate when Lem enters. "Sleeper, what are you?" He pauses and looks from you to Mina and back again. "Never mind." He drops the bag by the door and slumps on the couch. "Everything okay?" Lem lets a weak laugh. "You forgot the past few cycles now, too?" "Wish I was so lucky." He looks away at the open door. "Look, now's not a good time." "I want to help." "Help? Unless you have a side roll ticket or two on you, I don't think there's much you can do here." He pinches the bridge of his nose. "You understand they never even put us on the list, right? I've been all around the rim looking for work, and I've run into more than a few from the crews. Turns out only longtime Havogen members were issued those Celis ID numbers. They never planned to consider us." Havogens say they didn't know that was what they were going to use to make the draw, and who knows, maybe Celis pulled the wool over their eyes. But what does it matter? All those hours in the yards for a hand-to-mouth wage and nothing else. He slams his hand down on the sofa. "That can't be it." "Well, it is." He looks at the open door again. "They're moving the side roll up to the hub now, you know," he says without meeting your eye. That's where it'll depart from. They're bringing in a ship with all their cryosleep pioneers and transferring them up there in microgravity before loading the crew. We could sneak aboard. You think they're just going to let people on board? The security they'll have has to be impossible. He looks over at Mina. "Look, we'll be fine. We always have been. I just need a little time." He sighs. "We've had our hearts set on this trip, is all." Mina comes over and climbs onto his lap and smiles. "What if I got you on board? I missed you these past few cycles. I miss that optimism." Lem strokes Mina's hair. "Look, you want to go up to the hub and ask around, be my guest. I can't get up there with Mina down here, and I'm sure the side roll will bring in a crowd. But be careful. This kind of thing always attracts scammers and thieves. You find a way on board, you take it. You need help to get there? Ask me. But for now, me and Meanie here are sticking to the eye." She looks at him and smiles. "I'll find a way for all of us." Lem smiles but doesn't say anything. You stand to leave and Mina grabs her hand, eager to give you one more smile. Then you're out, back in the walkways of the low end, already thinking of plans to make this right. Okay, so let's head down and look for timers. Nope. Okay, that's gonna leave. I don't really have a use for ship mines. I don't have a timer on either of these right now, so guess what? We ain't gonna do them. Got mushrooms to harvest, but once again, no timers, so that's on hold. This will finish this off. All right. At least that's a short one. Ugh. No, it's another 6, and we only get one at a time. This is going to be a slog. Convince a crew. Okay, so deflect suspicion. Taking line attitudes, loudly arguing in favor of the quarantine, making friends with security. There are ways to deflect suspicion. Convince a crew. With division rife among the church crews, getting support for a supply shipment will just be a case of picking the right crew and approaching them discreetly. Tug escort. A crew willing to escort the Briar through the quarantine will give the ship a better chance of passing through the cordon without any trouble. All across the cordon, Havage's security are keeping a close eye on things. Gain their attention, and you'll struggle to maintain access. Havage's hangar? Engineer. Slice thrusters. It's a centralized suspicion. Tugs have a powerful suite of iron thrusters for rapid maneuvering. If you can sneak in and slice some off, you'll have a significant upgrade for the Briar. Jeez. So that's another 6, so we're up to 12, 12 minimal actions. Cordon operations, another 6 here. Blind spot, Havage's suspicion. Sabotage sensors. Some careful sabotage of the cordon systems should create a sensor gap that will allow the Briar to bypass the automatic quarantine systems. Blind spot. Creating a blind spot on the cordon's perimeter will give the Briar a better chance of evading detection when Esh makes her run. With any luck, this will get us our 8th scrap. And it did. So let's go ahead and go finish this off. Oh, that was just a single 8. Nice. You look over the pile of scrap components lying in the Briar. You look around and the bay is empty. Esh and Peak either elsewhere on the station or on the bridge a couple of levels up. Begin sorting through the piles, separating out useful components and boxing them by use. You don't recognize everything you find, but before long you get into the rhythm of sorting. As you do, your mind starts to drift, your attention being drawn into the dark corners of the bay. The Briar is in a surprisingly good condition, considering that Hawthorne and XPR must have been operating it for decades by now. The marks of care are everywhere, from the delicate pat jobs polished to meld into the original finish, or the carefully bound wiring running through custom trunking. Esh loves this ship. That much is clear. Something catches your eye in one of the dark corners, a matte black stack of crates you hadn't spotted before. They are sleek and compact, tucked away behind some of the bigger, more worn containers. Investigate. You put the components away and go over to the sleek crates. You run your hands across their textured surface, but there's a little hint of what lies inside in the opaque metal casing. Then you see it, a yellow symbol, embossed onto the far side of the crate. A universal signal used by spacers, corporations, and manufacturers alike. It's one you have seen throughout your time as a sleeper. Its meaning all too familiar. Explosive contents. You hear a hiss and Esh comes up through the bay's lock. She barely registers your presence, nodding at you as she passes. Sleeper? She busies herself with some task at the back. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask about the crates. Esh doesn't turn around for whatever she is busy with. Just more supplies, Sleeper, like everything else here. You can't think of anything else to ask, but sense that the atmosphere has now shifted. You can quickly finish up the sorting and slip out, waving goodbye to her back as you do. All right. 1 upgrade point, so we literally can't do anything because we need 3 points. Okay, reroll. Ugh. Okay, so we want an interface. Damn. Okay. Okay, it should be leaving this turn. I'm going to probably end up regretting this, but... Okay, now reroll. Awesome. Peak is waiting for you when you slip out of the operations center, nervously poking at their small slate. Sleeper, they hiss. I followed what you were doing on the network. Incredible work. How do you do that? It comes naturally. Peak smiles. I can't tell if that's modesty or just truth. Interfacing skills like that, it's almost worth being. They stop themselves. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Nothing is worth being a sleeper. Peak nods, unsure what to say. You and Peaks quietly slip into the main walkway and work your way back to the public areas of the cordon. Havens has had to quickly respond to the flotilla's arrival. That means a lot of contractors and spacers walking through these corridors. You blend in easily. I haven't really met a sleeper before, Peak begins. As you might have guessed, they smile nervously. Hawthorne is an XPR service outpost, and since the collapse, no one came for refueling or repairs anymore. So my generation has never met anyone outside the company. We heard about sleepers, they nod in your direction, from the data packets that come through from XPR once in a while. They usually contain news along with the corporate propaganda, but the reports were light on the details. SNARP have kept the sleeper program pretty quiet anyway, and I think XPR are only interested in telling their employees about it because it made living in our company town look like a good life. In comparison to being a piece of corporate property, they freeze. Sorry again, I don't mean they look down. I'm just not sure how to talk about this stuff. It's okay. Pete smiles. I'll shut up about it now. You walk on a little further, the walkway becoming busier. You both relax a little more and go to with the flow people. I just want to say, I think I understand, they begin. Clearly this has been on their mind. I understand the need to escape, to get free of it all. They laugh at themselves. The structures, the systems, the company horizons in a company town, they stare ahead. The small places, small corridors, small people, they look away. The slow death it brings. That's it, they turn to you. I get why you signed up to be a sleeper, and why you escaped from that too. I'm just going to nod. You try to form words, but you can't. There's altogether too much running through your head. But you look at Peak, and they look at you, and that seems okay for now. You walk in silence again, each of you in their own thoughts, but moving together through space nonetheless. After a while, you come to the entrance to the cordon, where handfuls of workers and crew filter in and out through two huge loading bay doors. Peak stops. Okay, they pause. I'm heading back to the Briar. Once again, incredible work on the sensors. That blind spot you created, that should give us a real advantage. See you soon. They head off, disappearing into the crowd, almost immediately outrunning their own nervousness. Check for wheels. Scrap is gone. They'll be back in a couple of turns. Get me my data. Hey, Chromeface! Thanks for showing up, Chromeface. Okay, nothing here, so... Okay, keep doing that. Oof, only 4 turns left. Okay, first we're going to deflect suspicion, because I really don't want to hit that. Then I'm going to take a gamble. Excellent. Pete grins as you pile the ion thruster sets onto the motorized trolley in a derelict loading bay. I borrowed this from Esh. I barely know how it works. They seem giddy at the idea of stealing the ship parts from Havenges. I thought you worked for XPR. I did, but not as a repair tech. They help you heave the thrusters into position. My specialty was computer systems. I mostly worked on keeping the protocols that ran the refueling platforms from totally decaying due to lack of use. There's a load of platforms in orbit of the moon Hawthorne is on, and Cinder itself. Esh and I ended up having to head out to them regularly, work on them. Seems like hard work. Are you kidding? Peak smiles. That was the best job at Hawthorne. You get assigned a ship, you get to leave the colony for a bit. So much better than outpost maintenance or canteen work. The only reason we got assigned to it was that Esh's mother is the administrator of Hawthorne, and Esh managed to get my name on the list too. Peak looks for the trolley's ignition. Esh is always saving me. They find the switch and hit it, and the trolley starts whining. Peak looks at the thrusters. Esh will install these. The Briar is her baby, really. Peak looks towards the bay exit. Truth be told, I was surprised she could bring herself to take it from her mother. Losing a ship? That has to have hurt the colony. How many ships does Thawthorn have? 4. Well, 3 now that the Climbing Briar is gone. Peak tucks their hair behind an ear. 1 barely runs, so I imagine they'll have reduced the number of fuel platforms they can actively maintain. Peak frowns for a second and then shakes their head. Anyway, screw 'em. Peak shuffles the trolley out of the bay into the corridor. They'll manage without the Briar. No choice, Peak smiles. And I have to admit, I'd love to have seen her face when she saw we'd gone. Peak pauses. Don't tell Esh that. They walk on quietly, lost in their memories of Hawthorne. Okay, I think I can manage the rest. Peak brushes their hair out of their face. We've done more than enough this cycle. Peak looks over the thrusters. Once these are fitted, the Briar will handle better than ever. You might even get a thank you from Esh, Peak laughs. They head off into the corridor, the trolley whining its high-pitched whine. See you soon. All right, time to find us a crew. Man. Drone messenger. Rapid burst of movement catches your attention. A drone, its fins adjusting as it hovers in place, floats in the door. Hello? The drone shifts a little, but does not respond. The drone buzzes closer, and a voice gurgles out of its speaker, distorted and strange. Sleeper, come to the core, we need to speak. Who is this? The drone clicks and whirs, and the recording starts playing again. Sleeper, come to the core, we need to speak. Inspect the drone. You move closer and the drone bobs away to a safe distance. But as it does, you see HA of Havenges emblazed on its side. Could this be Fang's drone? Satisfied it has delivered its message, the drone rotates and accelerates away as rapidly as it arrived. You stare at it as it disappears from sight, hoping for some insight that escapes you. The cordon, then. First, we'll get some food. As you enter the passage, it leads through the corridor, and a flash of movement catches your eye. The drone. It stops to make sure you've seen it, and then flits into a side passage, leading to the set of stairways. You climb up through a dark shaft, the drone stopping at each landing to check you are following. Despite its lack of expression, there's something overbearing about the way the drone waits, impatiently realigning its fins in sequence. After a long climb, you come out onto an observation platform. The cordon and the vast ramshackle refugee ships beyond fill your vision. The scale seems impossible. Immediately you feel small and naive for ever thinking you'd affect this situation. Something shifts nearby. The drone again? Helene, frustrated Havenge's counselor. A woman is stood at the window at the edge of your vision. You aren't surprised you didn't notice her. She too seems impossibly small in the shadow of the flotilla. The drone buzzes by your shoulders and she turns. Sleeper, sorry for all the cloak and dagger nonsense, she nods at the drone, but I have never regretted being cautious. She smiles a tight smile and holds out a hand. I'm Helene. Shake her hand. The tight smile holds, but the drone keeps its single eye fixed on you. The effect is a little unnerving. Look. She glances around at the empty observation deck as if checking for potential eavesdroppers. Let's be straight with each other. I know about your plans and, she cuts in before you can respond, I understand your motives. You look at her in her overalls, the yellow markers, the HA sigil. You've been on the aisle long enough to recognize a Havengers member when you see them. You're Havengers. Yes, I mean, I expect that is obvious, the tight smile again. I hope you won't hold that against me. She glances around nervously again and moves a little closer. This entire situation, I am not here to defend it. She glances back at the flotilla. No one is happy about this. Especially the refugees. She sighs. I'm not your enemy here, no matter what you think. She pauses. Sleeper, tell me something. What does Havengers mean to you? A work in progress. She smiles. Fair, I think. Havengers is used to be criticized. In some ways, we invite it. Our members are free to bring up grievances at any meeting to propose new structures and approaches. She shifts her weight impatiently. As a counselor, it's my duty to listen to them. That is why I was elected by the members. We're an imperfect system, yes, and each counselor, each member, each representative can be flawed, and worse. She looks down. We keep this place running. That is what we do. And the non-members? There are paths to membership, and we cannot force everyone on the station to join us. What do you expect? We're an association of individuals. We cannot always account for the needs of those outside that structure. She turns and looks out of the flotilla, no matter how much we wish to. Can the Eye take in thousands of refugees safely? I don't know. This place is a ruin, Sleeper. What do you think the council discusses? The price of Garole? We make plans to keep this place spinning, to keep life support working, to ensure... Helen's slate chirps and a grim look passes across her face as she sees the notification. She looks tired, the screen light casting her rigid expression in a pale glow. Sleeper, I didn't bring you here to explain how Havengers works. I came to talk about your plan to cross the cordon, breach the quarantine, and supply the flotilla. She looks directly at you. How do you know? She glances at the drone. I make my job to know what happens here. I think you're helping this flotilla, but you cannot do this. Right now, halfway along the ring, one of a countless series of debates are being held. These debates are to evaluate the potential harm that could be caused if the refugees of the flotilla are left to enter the station. These debates are at a standstill. Helen walks to the window. Too many in the Havengers Council think of the flotilla as a threat. After recent events, a hardline group has emerged. Protective, selfish, they seek only to benefit the members in their mind. The flotilla is a danger to the life of the Eye. If you're caught crossing the cordon and breaching the quarantine, it will only strengthen the hardline council's case. Criminals who stole the shit from XPR, undermining security of the station? She shakes her head. It's exactly what they want. The refugees need supplies. They do, and that's exactly what I want to give them. But unless the quarantine is lifted through a fair process, they will never get them. She sighs deeply. And those ex-XPR spacers you're running with, Sleeper, do you know anything about them? More than I know about you. She looks at you pleadingly. Let's change that, Sleeper. Why do you think that refugee flotilla came here? Something is happening in the system. Something is pushing people out of the colonies and outposts that have survived since Solheim collapsed. We need to be ready for whatever's coming. Ready to protect the Eye. I know the Eye means something to you. I know there's a reason you're still here. Help me protect it. Helene fixes you with a strong look. Persuade those spacers that this is the wrong move, that they'll get caught and the flotilla will be locked down, that Havengers will be delivered into those with the worst instincts. Forget the suicidal supply run with people you barely know. Help me fight for the Eye. I'm not going to betray them. I'm going to be straight up. I won't betray them. Helene looks away. But you will betray your home? Don't offer up the excuse the hardliners need to lock the flotilla out altogether. To persuade the members they are the safest pair of hands. She looks at you imploringly. Please. You look back at her and the flotilla behind, and a sense of desperation in her plea. A notification breaks her silence. Shit! She rapidly scrolls through the pages of data. Sleeper, I need to go. She looks torn. Think about this, please. Talk to the spacers. Help them see reason. She quickly leaves the observation deck before you have time to respond. You stay for a moment, watching the lights of the tugs and the flotilla, and wonder what it feels like to be on those ships, so close to your destination, and yet so far from it. Then you think of Havenger's council chamber across the eye, where the right of these people to find safety is being debated. You shiver, and then you too are gone, back into the stairwell in the cold dark below. Okay, we're going to go check and see if we've got any other things to do. Okay, I'm not seeing... Okay, the 3 turns. Yeah, I don't have any actions. I can't even try to convince them. So yes. You meet Peak leaning in a corner of the canteen in their typically unassuming way. It occurs to you as you approach that Peak must have had some practice in staying invisible. All good, they look up from their sleep. That crew you were talking to? They nod to this group leading the cantina. They will join us. That's what they say. You aren't sure? Peak looks back at them as they disappear into the corridors of the installation. Looks like we'll have to take them at their word either way. Peak beckons for you to follow as they peel off the wall and head into the walkway overlooking the corridor. Glad you were here to talk them into it. I never had much of a way with people. Peak smiles and looks away quickly as you walk. You and Esh seem to do okay. Peak laughs their light and easy laugh. Esh, not really like other people, which you've probably noticed. If only everyone was like Esh. They fade off, something drawing their attention. What I mean is, people have caused me a lot of trouble. I've had people hate me without knowing a thing about me. They tuck their hair behind an ear. I'm sure you know the feeling. I do. Pete glances at you. Sorry to hear that. It marks you, am I right? It does. Pete nods. You both walk in silence for a moment. Not an awkward silence, but one of solidarity. Pete leads you around a corner, heading back to the main corridor and access way. I appreciate you coming in and helping us out on this, Sleeper. On talking to the crew and, well, you know, maybe after this insane plan is done, we can talk properly. They keep looking ahead and you realize they are nervous. I'd like that. Peak smiles, looking down at their feet. That's settled then, they say to the floor. I better report the news to Esh. We have ourselves a tug escort. Peak stops at an intersection. See you soon, Sleeper, and please take care. And with that, they drift away, their head down, their gait changing as they do, their practiced invisibility shrouding them like a cape. And we've got both. So sleepy time. Sleeper. Peak is waiting for you when you leave, but they look different. Pale, drawn out. You need to come up to the briar now. They don't meet your eye. What's happened? Not here, Peak hisses. Come to the ship. We'll be waiting, Peak walks away. Don't take long. And with that, they disappear around the corner, leaving you anxious and confused. Still got the timer. Got somebody to talk to. We're going to get some food. Oh, jeez, whoops. At least I rolled decent on that reroll. As you walk into the Climbing Briar's Cavernous Bay, now filled with crates and containers, Esh is waiting for you. In front of her, sliced open with its inside scattered across the top of a heavy-duty crate, is an object you'd recognize, Helen's drone. You freeze. Come in quick, Pete nudges you into the bay, looking behind you before sealing the entryway. We have to start being careful. You move closer to the container, your eyes on the drone splayed out in pieces, some parts of it hooked up to a slate that Peak picks up and begins tapping away at. Esh looks from the dissection. We caught it buzzing around nearby, heading for the ship. She leans over and taps the HA signal on one of the removed pieces of plating. It's a Havenged spy. We think we got it before it sent data back, but we can't be sure. Peak looks at you nervously. Esh cuts in. Have you noticed anyone watching you? Any drones like this? Anyone following you up to the briar? I'm an honestly best policy kind of guy. I've seen this drone. Esh frowns. Following you? I met its owner. Esh pauses for a while, Peak looking between the two of you. Explain, Sleeper, Esh says quietly. Tell him about Helene. You explain that you met Helene at the garden, and you tell Esh and Peak about what she told you. That the Havengers Council are debating lifting the quarantine, but they're blocked by the hardliners. You speak faster and faster, but before you can finish, Ek walks away in anger and then comes back, her eyes burning. What is this, Sleeper? Have you understand nothing from what we've told you? She paces in front of you. Havengers are not your friends. They are administrators, which means they are interested only in their power, their own survival, their own causes. They divide people as easily as sorting livestock. The greater good of their work demands it. The wider project of the station, the colony, the nation. Her eyes are wide as she speaks, her anger barely contained. I'm going to try not to poke the bear on this. I didn't have a choice. Pete cuts in. Listen to them, please, Esh. They are with us. Pete glances between you two. What was the Sleeper supposed to do? They were ambushed by this Helene. I only listened. Let me tell you something, Sleeper, Esh says, her rage hardening into pain. When people become administrators, they give up something. Some part of being human. Being equal among others goes away. They start talking about the greater good, the systems, the ways in which their hands are tied, or their processes compromised. My mother was the administrator of Hawthorne, and I've seen what it did to her. The noble higher calling it is toxic. People should never have the chance to decide the fate of others, and those that do so at the cost of their humanity. Peak tries to cut in, but Hesh holds up a hand. Don't start, Peak. Don't ask me to be reasonable or calm down. Thousands of people are desperate out there. Being reasonable will only prolong their suffering. Okay. We're gonna try with the help. Helene can help. Esh turns away. I'm done with this. You're risking the entire supply run just by being here. She walks back into the bay and starts checking the straps on the crates. I go next cycle. We don't need you anymore. Get out. Sleeper, Peak looks torn. You have to understand, this is personal for Esh. I know. Peak looks away, then Esh. I don't know, Sleeper. I just don't know what to do. You glance around the bay of the Briar. The walls seemingly close her every second. This whole thing is closing in on you, and the question is, where do you want to be when it collapses? You look at Peak. And what do you think, Sleeper? Peak rubs his forehead. Should we do this thing or not? I'm going to be honest here, yeah, I don't know. Peak nods, me neither. They look at Ash, but you see her, she knows, and she saved my life, so I'm going to say we do it. They squeeze your shoulder, onward. They slip away to help Esh, leaving you alone to replay the conversation in your head. A certain kind of grim determination settling in on the room. Last chance to prepare. I don't see any way to prepare. And I've got enough to make a ship mind. Excellent. Rico is at her bench, running small vials of some liquid through an old chemical analysis machine. The whirring of the spinning drum fills the lab with white noise, and you aren't sure if she notices as you approach. Sleeper, it's good to see you. She looks up smiling. This little project of ours has been keeping me awake the past few cycles. But right now, well, I think I have something. You should rest. I know my limits, she laughs to herself. I just don't like paying attention to them. The drum finishes spinning and Rico lifts a vial from it, holding it up to the light. This is something I extracted from those club heads you've been bringing me, and according to my analysis, it is a substance totally unique to the Greenway. You look at the small amount of liquid in the vial. Any ideas what it might be? Rico asks without looking away from the vial. Stabilizer. Rico nods. You aren't the first sleeper to come through here. Perhaps I should have mentioned that earlier. Rico's tone suddenly drops, changing the atmosphere in the lab immediately. I just thought... She pauses, thinking carefully of how to continue. I just wanted you to trust us. What do you mean? She sighs. They came through a fair few cycles ago. We found them wandering in the broken section near the gap. The members who brought them in had never seen one of you before. They were terrified of this strange person wandering in from open vacuum. They were quieter than you and damaged. We did our best to patch them up and welcome them to the commune. I only really spoke to them once. While I was working on their wounds, along with a couple of systems engineers, she looks away nervously at you. I'd never seen a body like that before. I took some readings, some samples. Samples? You have to understand, I was curious. I didn't know what I was looking at. I just took a little of the damaged material. Less than a thumbnail, she shifts her weight to her crutch. The next cycle, they were gone. They took a little food and hiked up towards the wild margins, where the greenway meets the wastes. Someone say them in the distance, but that was it. They disappeared into the overgrowth. She sits down heavily, the vial in her hand. When I saw you, I wanted things to be different. I wanted to keep you here, rather than let you disappear into wherever they ended up. She smiles to herself. Yes, I wanted to understand this place better, but I also wanted to help you. It seems that somehow both my wishes have come true at once. She holds out a hand with the vial. This is for you. You take the stabilizer, the glass cold and smooth in your palm. Thank you. Don't thank me. She gazes out at the greenway through the glass. Those clubhead caps made it for you, or at least who or whatever made those club heads. She starts to clear the bench. It was right there, contained in the tissue. I only had to extract it. I imagine you understand how incredible that is. I learned enough from that sleeper to know that your body, your frame is it, runs on some exotic technology. Exotic technology that has a time limit built in. Somehow the Greenway knows that too. It understands your physiology much better than I ever could. It knows how to treat you. Just like that miraculous antidote that sprung up for the mold, so too has this sprung up from your presence here. The Greenway is speaking to you, is welcoming you. She looks up. I know it sounds crazy, but I know it to be true. Here's the evidence. And what I also know is it is no longer speaking to me. Even after decades here, I've never seen this kind of response. Not since the antidote so many cycles ago. She smiles. So I'm going to make you a deal. You bring me as many clubheads as you like. I'll extract the stabilizer and give it to you freely. But you have to tell me what the Greenway says. You have to speak with it, to dig into it, to find what being is at the center of it. I've traveled as far as I can. I need you to do the rest. Can you do that? Yes. Rico sighs with relief and deflates into her chair. Thank you. I'm sorry for the other sleeper, truly I am. I'm sorry I couldn't have done more, but I'm so glad to have met you, she smiles. You're welcome here anytime. Rika falls silent. She looks smaller now, more fragile, and you realize how old she must be to have seen the collapse firsthand. You idle a little in the lab in case she asks for anything else, but she remains silent, so you drift back into the tunnel, thoughts of that other sleeper and where they ended up weighing on your mind. Okay, so it takes 2 to make a stabilizer. Stabilizer thinks this. With a couple of clubhead caps, Rico can extract the miraculous stabilizer they produce. It's a hard thing to believe. So yeah, I pretty much have to keep doing this. And Rico's Grow Beds. Secure plant nursery. Oh! Oh, and did we get... We got an upgrade point. We're about to get another. The only way to understand what Gardner gave you is to grow it. Rico is extremely excited by the prospect. I'll take good care of it, Sleeper, Rico smiles. Don't worry. And we've got Gardner's gift. The seed is planted and Rico is an attentive mother to it. What future is forming here? And that'll be 8 turns. Ah, I didn't get anything for that, though. Alright, I've got stuff to spend. I've got one little thing to spend. Okay, I've been burning through cash, so we're going to hack ourselves some money. Oh yeah, I haven't fed the stray in a while. Oh, that was... Yeah, I can just dump in here. $80 cryo for 3 batches. We don't got it sell. We're not out of money yet. Next turn. Alright, now let's check self-repair. I've been wondering how much this is going to repair. 1? Okay. She's gone, Sleeper. Peak is breathless and shaking. She started the run without us. Esh? Peak looks confused. Who else? Let's go. If we head to the cordon now, Peak starts back up the corridor. They turn back. She has to make it, Sleeper. She has to. A shiver runs down your spine. Esh, I hope you know what you're doing. You arrive frantic and anxious at the cordon. Peak is nowhere to be seen. Then you hear footsteps hammering on the metal stairway. Helene's drone led you through before, the one that leads up to the observation deck. You leap up the stairs 2 at a time and make it to the top, momentarily blinded by the light pouring into the observation deck. Sleeper! Peak emerges from the light. I know she's trying to protect me, but... What was she thinking? She was always planning this, I know it. They turn away. How could I have not seen it coming? There she is! Peak rushes to the wide window, leaning forward to catch a glimpse of the Climbing Briar's blue XPR rivalry against the black of the void. You spot the Climbing Briar, a glint of blue and white, and beside it, the red glare of Tug's lights. The Tug's crew went with her, Peak smiles. I knew they'd keep their word. That'll help. Peak doesn't seem to hear you, but the idea of the crew's backing Esh makes you smile. Maybe this thing will work. You watch as the Briar and its Tug escort arc down towards the edge of the cordon, demarcated by the red lights of the perimeter system. So far, so good. The Briar will look like another refugee ship being escorted into cordon, or at least at a glance. Peak grips the rail as Esh reaches the edge of the cordon. That invisible net of sensors splayed between ships and drones. Now let's hope the blind spot triggered. You think back to the mess of systems you had to wade through to set it up. The delicate contingencies you set up to trigger the sensor blackout at just the right moment. Without noise, without ceremony, the Briar slides through the cordon. You wait the flickering alarm of lights, the swarming of drones, but nothing. Just another cycle, just another ship. Esh is in. Both you and Peak let out the breath you've been holding and laugh. How did she do it? Peak smiles, shaking their head. We did it. Peak smiles wider. Yes, we did, they laugh. You feel a little shaky from the tension, but Peak's ease helps you settle. You imagine Esh, steely-eyed in the pilot's seat of the Briar, searching for a place to dock. Maybe being stubborn has its advantages. What now? Now she finds a place to dock and unload, as quietly as possible. They look out of the flotilla, and then she gets the hell out of there. You and Peak turn back to the window, looking for the Briar again, amongst all the holes, the calm fading as new worries settle in. You spot the Briar first this time, docking with the largest of the flotilla's ships, a vast converted tanker. Half of its protective plates removed. You think about the effort it must have taken to get that thing all the way here from the inner system. You watch the Briar, unable to get any sense of progress from its placid exterior. They'll be offloading everything now, Peak says, both assuring you and themselves that everything is going to plan. You think of all the supplies loaded into the Briar and how long the process of unloading them might take. The bay was packed, rammed with everything you could offer, and the thought of bringing all of that to the flotilla makes you smile. You think of the reaction of the refugees, of the welcome they'll give Esh as the bearer of such gifts. You even imagine a smile from Esh as she showered with thanks. You focus on that as you watch the Briar and continue the nervous wait for it to finish unloading. It's breaking off! Peak points at the Briar, and you see the puff of air and dust that accompanies an emergency depressurization. Esh must have ended things early, but why? Then you see them, the tugs closing in on the Briar. Havagers must have spotted the ship. You and Peak are up against the window again, wheeling the Briar a safe path out of the flotilla. Suddenly the Briar shifts in space, a blue blur between two hulls. Peak whistles. Look at that, they smile at you. Looks like those upgrades we put together work. You watch as Esh cuts through the crowded flotilla, the Flugs not daring to follow her dangerous path and peeling away. It is hard to keep track of the Briar, and suddenly both you and Peak are searching for the black for a sign. Where's she gone? Then all of a sudden she's out, blue against the black, pulling away from the cordon on a wide arc towards the station. A clean run. Peak cheers and smiles at you. We did it. She's out. They beam uncontrollably at you, the tension released. You find yourself smiling too, smiling at these two beautiful idiots in their beautiful ship. Then Peak is hugging you, squeaking you with all the nervous energy that had been building. Thank you, Sleeper. We did this together. They step back, still smiling. We did something. Come on, they rush out of the observation deck. Let's meet her. All right. What do I use for mushrooms? Mushrooms. Intuit, yeah. So we will upgrade Intuit. Or, engage. I guess one thing of repair on scrap is decent, because that's one a turn, and I can make one scrap a turn pretty easily. So, what do we use to gather scrap out here? Endure? Okay, so we'll hit Endure as our next upgrade. You and Peak rush into the Briar, finding yourselves in the now empty bay. The change is a reminder of what you achieved, and looking around, you feel all the more satisfied. A hiss sounds at the far end of the bay, and Esh enters, looking exhausted. Peak runs up to embrace her, but she sits down on the bay floor before they reach her. You did it, they sit beside her. Esh, you are incredible. She smiles a small smile at this, laying her head on Peak's shoulder. You suddenly feel like you are intruding, seeing the two of them like this, quiet and content. Sleeper, Peak calls, come on over. Cross the bay and sit beside them on the hard metal floor. Esh, Peak asks, did you give the flotilla our chairs? They both burst out laughing at the ridiculousness of it all, at the exhaustion and the worry and everything else. You laugh too, it is impossible not to. And after a while, you all come to a stop, Peak wiping their eyes and Esh shaking her head. You would have loved to see it, Sleeper, Esh says quietly. That welcome I got. They came to greet the ship once I docked to offload the supplies. I told them I was coming, of course, as soon as I got inside the cordon, but there were so many. Children, families. They were all smiling at me, shaking my hand. Sol was there too, Peak, and he's just as gruff as he sounds over the comms, she smiles. They took it all, crate after crate, until the ship was emptied out. Esh looks away. But there were so many, and even with everything we managed to bring, they needed more. They made me promise I would try to come back. Esh, Peak shakes her head. You know we can't do that twice. Esh stands up. What are we supposed to do? Wait for them to lift the quarantine? She's angry again, that familiar tension rising in her voice. Peak tries to pull her back down. Sit, Esh. Rest. You've done enough for today. Don't, Peak. I know my limits, Esh hardens. Okay, well, seeing as they didn't catch you, perhaps they will lift it. They know the flotilla poses no danger now, and if they can account for the extra load on the life support... Esh walks away towards the ladder that leads up into the upper part of the ship. I need to rest, Peak. She holds up a hand. Sleeper. Then she limps up the ladder, step by painful step. The lady who just was talking about how she knew her limits. I'm afraid if you were expecting a change in Esh's demeanor, Peak smiles at you. It's okay, let her rest. Peak nods. I think I need some rest too. They put a hand on your shoulder and get up from the floor. We couldn't have done this without you, Sleeper, and I know those in the flotilla would thank you too. Go rest. Peak limps up the ladder too, leaving you alone on the metal floor of the bay. Your thoughts drift to all those people on the flotilla, sleeping and sitting on metal floors like this. Children, families playing in cargo bays and repurposed fuel tanks. You know their story isn't over yet, and you look forward to meeting them. The quarantine will lift, and you feel more sure of this fact every moment, and even though you aren't sure why. You lie back on the metal and stare at the ceiling. What was it Feng told you, Erlen said? The eye opens for us all. Maybe the old guy was right. A home for the lost. You like the idea of that. Maybe in time you can help make that a reality. But something is bothering you. A sliver of thought, like a splinter you can't extract. Why are thousands of refugees coming here? People don't abandon their homes for nothing. What wave is rushing through the system, and when will it reach the eye? You shudder on the cold metal floor and get up. Something's coming. You can feel it. This isn't over. Oh, there it is. Did I get a key? I think I already got the point for it. Okay. So, I need spores. Nice. We'll feed in our stray buddy. We'll end cycle. Stray buddy again. Actually, so I think we're going to close it here tonight. It's been 2 hours. I got work tomorrow and all that goodness. Let's take a look at who's on. So we're gonna go ahead and raid M. Lee Lunsford. They're doing art of Android 18 breaking Vegeta's arm. They do a webcomic that I follow, and I followed their art prior to that, and seem to be a pretty cool person. So yeah, and remember, they use they them non-binary pronouns. So please be respectful, and I'll see you guys again next weekend, and we should finish off the Greenway next week, and hopefully we'll get the Lem and Mina onto the spaceship, and we'll see what's all going on. So